Hi and welcome to the console tutorial video. Okay, so this is a video for this unit here, this pod from the basic set, the console. It's also kind of the starter video for this this console pod as well, from one of the room packs, command room pack. It's pretty much the same unit actually, it's just this front bit that's different. So you can use the start of this video basically for the majority of building this unit as well. Okay, but we're going to focus on actually building this particular pod. What you're going to need for this is you're going to need the console printed sheet, which is what I've got here. You're also going to need, as with all pods, you're going to need your side supports. This is one I've already used a few times, as you're probably watching through the tutorial videos. You see me slowly cutting these out. On here we've got the actual base with a little inside support there, which is quite unique for the console base there. And other than that, it's really just bolstering that holds the consoles together. You can use a side support as well, just inside, but we'll see what happens with this video here. Okay, so let's just move these out of the way. First thing I'm going to do is I need to scalpel out all of these bits and pieces, the bases and the side supports, and the printed image as well. You've seen me scalpel quite a lot on a few of my videos, so I'm going to do this Blue Peter style and pre-do that for you. Okay, so here I've got all the pieces laid out, all the printed pieces and all the mount board pieces here. What we're going to do first is we're going to put the base together. So I'm just going to move these printed parts out of the way. Okay. So starting with the base, what we're going to do is we need to pop these side supports on. And like I said, this time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a little internal support here. So I've got a couple of spacers, and we're going to put one side together, then the other side, then a little support in the middle, and that's the base done. So just moving some of those bits aside. Let's get one of these sides done first here. Edging technique, pretty much the same as when you're doing the double door, this bit here, kind of a similar sort of repeat for most of the parts. Okay, and I used quite a lot of glue there because I really wanted to just sort of cement that in place. Important to note that actually the base, I cut out all the bits and pieces on the mount board. The base I actually beveled. I beveled across the front, actually says bevel here as well. But also on this cutout piece, I also beveled, obviously I beveled on this side, I also beveled just a very slight bevel all the way on the inside as well, because the parts that connect onto here will be running at a very slight angle. I have actually built these without beveling, and it's okay, but this little bevel here just helps a little bit. Okay, so that now needs to dry, and I'll leave it to dry as level as I can, although the actual printed pod hull will actually self-level it. Okay. Very carefully move that off to the side. So the next thing would be to actually score this. This scores exactly the same as a normal pod, and again I've actually already scored this, so I'm just going to sort of go ahead and fold this up. Okay, so that's the outer hull scored and folded to the correct shape. The next part is this part here. Now with this, we are going to score along this line here, and the same on the other side. We're also going to score along here and all the way along here, whoops, out here, and we're also going to score from here all the way along here, and this whole thing is going to kind of bend towards the camera, if you like, bend towards us. So all of those scores that I've just indicated, they basically need to be underscored. So I've basically nipped through here, here, here and here and flipped it over to join up, and I've also nipped here and here, here and here. Even though it is already cut to a V, I've actually put a nip exactly on the line so I can make sure the folds are just in the right place. And lastly, there's also a score here and here, but that's actually going to fold away, so I've scored across the top. So all I'm going to do now is actually fold this in. Okay, so that's that. Next thing, I'm just going to score these two. Now these fold away, so it's two overscores, one here and one here, and the same on this unit here. So I'm just going to fold those across, and that's those two done. And lastly, this is actually the console control panel, the little keyboards and screens on it. And with this, we've got 1, 2, 3 scores to make 1, 2, 3, 4 folded parts, and again it's kind of marked on there. That's the little keyboard, as it were. Okay, cool, so that's all the parts folded up. With these two parts here, what I am going to need to do is I want to kind of fit this onto here before I actually lay it over the top of this part here. So there's a couple of things I'm going to need to do here. One, firstly, I need to attach this top bit here to this, and then after that, the rest of it I'm going to use, well, a bit like this, I'm going to use like little tabs just to hold these in place. I'm going to make little tabs for the back from offcuts of photo paper, and here, just to bring it into shape, as it were. Once that's all done, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of sort of tab it onto here, basically get the whole thing kind of fitted so that I can just drop it straight over the top. Then the whole thing kind of falls together very, very quickly. So when you're putting this together, you're making these tabs for the back. It's pretty much just like if you should have watched the essential how-to guide. It shows you how to make a repair if you're scoring and you actually score slightly too far through. So it's a bit like, well, it's sort of identical to effecting a repair, basically. So it's kind of like we're just repairing this whole thing. So I'm going to grab some card. This is just the console photo paper, and actually I'm not really going to measure this. I'm just going to start cutting some strips here so that I can make some tabs. Let's go for some. So first I need to make a tab here, so I'm just going to need something roughly the length of this. Now when I score this line for a fold here, it's not like an ordinary score, it's just a very, very, very light, just to allow me to fold. So it's quite hard, because I want this to not be like a normal score, I want this to be quite strong. And I can literally just glue that on there first of all, and then pop it on here. It's going to be fine. And it's important to remember that you need to pre-bend this to roughly the right shapes. Now, before I do anything else as well, I really want to let that dry just for 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, depending on the glue that you're using. Okay, so In fact, while that is drying, what I am going to do is just sort of cut some little tabs similar to this, sometimes at slight angles, so that I can tab some of this across this part here, this part here, this part here, so I can basically get the shape of this put together. And some little reverse tabs as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and just sort of tab this all together until we've got a complete unit, as it were. Okay, so what I've done is I've basically tabbed the back of this. I've actually just removed this from here again, so it's easier to show you for the camera. But actually, it's quite a good idea that, and I may have done it on some of the others, is not to glue this part on maybe straight away, but actually to tab the back of this out first, and maybe we'll build the inside of here as it is. One of the last things we'll do is we'll tab it on here and fix it to this bit, and then we'll drop it over the top. So yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea to me. So there you go, that's all fully tabbed. And I've just popped a tab on here, here, and a tab on here and here, same on the other side, and this gives us this little kind of shell, like a carapace, and what all we're going to do now is we're going to bolster out the back of this, and this part's going to slot in there, and then you've got your little couple of other little bits that just drop in there, one in there and one on the other side. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to make a bolster for this, and I'm actually going to do one complete bolster, nice big piece here, that'll strengthen up this whole top part of this console and give a nice surface to kind of fix onto, and then we'll do another straight bolster all the way across this bottom piece. That'll give me two pieces to glue onto there. That'll be a nice fit. So I'll do that first of all. Just use an offcut of card. And because this joins on at a very slight angle when it's on, I'm just going to very carefully, very slightly bevel this. Not as much as what I would, you know, an ordinary bevel, just a little bit. Just a slither. And the bottom piece actually connects directly straight on, so for that I'm just going to need, actually this is the same length, isn't it? When you glue this bit on, make sure you've got the bevel running at the right angle. That's it. That's that bit there. So I'll just leave that to dry for a bit, and then that'll glue straight onto there. Then we've got these two little bits, and with these, again, I'm just going to using an offcut, I'm just going to make a little piece that's the same size as this little fold down flap, and I'm going to glue one on there, one on there, one on there, one on there, and then again that'll give me something to stick directly onto there. Now right now I'm actually making, I'm going to make this little thing that sits on there. You might find that on your download that I've actually created a template so that you can actually sort of cut it directly out of one of these sheets. But if not, you know, it's a good little skill to get into making these little bolsters. Okay, so I've basically bolstered the two of those out, and I've bolstered this out as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these into here, and when doing this, it's quite good because it kind of helps put this into its correct shape as well, and ready to insert it into the hole place. So first of all, when gluing this in, I want to make sure I get this roughly the right shape. You can actually see here the big white area. this isn't supposed to be scalpelled out, this bit, it's just a white piece. Just not bothered to colour it because it's hidden. What you're going to be doing is it's going to be glued up to this, up to where all this line here, which is where all the computers start, and that's where the console bit starts, and then it's going to be the bottom piece, this piece here, is actually going to glue right up to where this starts to bend up. Okay, so it's just going to sit very nicely in there, but also it's going to glue on this side and on this side, a little bit of glue as well. So you've got to be careful. This is slightly bent out at the moment, which is nice. It means I can slot this in, and then when I've got it in place I can just do this and the glue will tack onto it. So I'm going to do that now. Now I'm going to need to edge glue this, edging on the inside, because I really don't want on this computer console part, which is a really nice piece, don't want splodges of glue up here. So I'm going to edge glue this. Not so bad underneath, but certainly on the top. Edge glue both parts anyway. Just going to let that go very slightly tacky, only a little bit, but just very slightly tacky. And there's not many places I can hold on here. Now, it is in the right shape, just about. And I'm just going to pop it in here. Very careful now, and I might even bend this out slightly as I do this. Don't want to get this side or this side touching and dragging glue across any of the images. So I'm going to pull this open and very carefully just locate it into position. Okay, that's that part done. You might want to hold this for a little bit longer than what I'm going to. All we need to do on this bit is basically now drop these pieces in there to make sure that they glue. And we've got this lovely bolster on here now that we've got plenty of room to sort of glue onto. Now I'm going to give these a good sort of pinch in. I really do want them at a right angle before they go in. And when you pop these bits in, it really does help to bring this to the correct shape. So don't be worried if you start to put it in, you think, oh, it doesn't fit. Just push it down, and it sets these backs to the right angles. Essentially, that's it. So this would you'd leave this to dry for a little bit of time. What we'll do then is we will finally connect this onto here, like so. Okay, so this has been tabbed back into this unit here. What I've also done is I've added a couple of little bolsters, one here and one here, just for this length, just here. And it doesn't go right the way down to here, because there's actually going to be an internal support in there, and I don't want that to kind of get in the way of that internal support. Okay, and with these bolsters here, you need to obviously just taper it across at the back here as well a little bit to run in line with this. Okay, so yeah, there you go, a little bolster that sort of runs along there, and this is glued in, and I've let this dry a little bit more. Okay, so all we've got to do now, the very final stage, is to actually just drop this onto here. So I'm going to do this backwards for your benefit. I'm just going to basically make sure the whole thing is fitting quite nicely. Cool. Yeah. That seems to kind of fit quite nicely. Just double check. Yep, seems to be quite a good fit. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to glue down this back piece first, okay, so that I've got a good solid shape, because I know this is an exact shape and this will actually level, make sure that this is perfectly level. Once that's done, ideally you'd leave that to dry for a bit. I'm just going to go straight ahead then and stick these down here. So glue that on first. Okay, so that's this back part glued down. What I'm going to do now is actually just glue this whole bit into position. So these sides here actually make contact with the internal side supports here and here. I'm going to need to glue onto here, but also all of this bottom part here makes contact with the base as well. So I'm going to be gluing here, edge gluing around here. I'm going to glue the sides here and here, and then that will pretty much hold the whole thing in place, and then we can just glue these last little bits down. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. What I'm also going to do, just as I do this, I'm just going to edge glue here and here as well, because once this is down I'm not going to be able to get in there. Okay, now that this is done, you might want to sort of kind of hold this in position for a bit longer than what I am. All we've got to do now is basically pop these two bits down here, and a bit like an ordinary pod, you'd edge glue down here. You've got a little bit of support to do there, and you can do some edge glue in here. Here you've got like a little gap between the outside wall support and this bit here. I actually just tend to put some glue on here, tiny little bit of glue, actually almost edge gluing the card here, and that just keeps those two edges together as well. If you didn't do that, it'd still pretty much just stay in shape, but you could just tack the slightest amount of glue on. So I'm going to pop both these sides down now, one at a time. Okay, and there it is. That's the computer console pod. This really is one of the more tricky pods to put together, especially all the tabbing around the back of this. So you know, take your time with it. Always make sure everything fits before you're about to glue it down, as it were. And but that's it. There's a computer console pod, all done and dusted. Thanks very much for watching. On to the next tutorial video, and happy gaming.